Okay, I wanted to give you a quick recap of a couple of the problems that you may see on your test here. So the first thing is factoring. We call these factoring trinomials because there's 3 terms. But remember, you're looking for things that multiply to 12 and add to 8. I think the way that they just build in the lesson, think about you have like your x squared, and you're rearranging those 8 x's along with those 12 units. Like, hey, if you put 6 x's over here, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I put 2 down here. Do you see then, as these continue, how you'd have a total of 12 ones? So then what is your side length? This side length is x plus 6. This side length is x plus 2. So how do you factor it? This factors to x plus 2 times x plus 6. The other way that I kind of write it sometimes, and you see this in what they had a video about called the snowflake method, you're looking for things that multiply to 12. 2 numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 8. So what are the 2 numbers that multiply to 6, add to 8? I always think about the things that multiply to 12, so like 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 7. So this is 2 and 6. The next one, we're looking for things that multiply to 12 but add to 13, so that's 12 and 1, which means your factored form is x plus 12 times x plus 1. Okay, so what about this? What if I kind of give you, this is more similar to like the diagram, right? If I give you some of the outsides and insides, can we fill in some of the missing pieces? So here, if this is 3x times 2x, you're going to get 6x squared. You notice 3x times 7 is 21x. But now you're saying like 2x times what is negative 10x? 2x times negative 5. 2 times negative 5 is 10. And then negative 5 times 7 is negative 35. So one of them, as we're talking about the 2 different expressions, one is 3x minus 5, right, this side, times 2x plus 7, the other side. That's one expression. This is like the length and width. This is what we call factored form, whereas the other one is thinking about adding what's in the boxes. So 6x squared plus 21x minus 10x minus 35. You can combine these 2 middle terms because they're alike. 6x squared plus 11x minus 35. And this is what they call standard form. Okay. Consider the parts below. Create 2 expressions, one in standard form, the other in vertex form, aka a binomial squared. So you'll see that vocab vertex form a lot. So let's look at standard form. Standard form is there's 2x squareds, there are 4 x's, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 ones. Vertex form, you want to think about rearranging it. So think about having that x squared, and we actually have 2x squareds, right? And we want to complete the square for each one. So if I put an x here and an x here, do you see how that makes a square? I just fill it in with a unit 1. If I put the x here and the x here, once again, you can fill it in with a unit 1. So that deals with all of these, right? But how many ones do I have left over? I have all of these ones left over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's talk about what this looks like then in vertex, or a binomial squared form. These side lengths are both x plus 1, right? It makes a perfect square. So that's where we see the x plus 1 squared. But we have how many of them? We have 2 of those. And we have a leftover of 6 ones. So this is your vertex form. Okay, last but not least, we got 2 more factoring things. Okay, this next one, when you're factoring, there's some different ways to do it. I actually think about this as like a difference of squares. But there are other ways to approach it. But if you recognize every difference of squares, so you have like a squared minus b squared, it ends up becoming a plus b times a minus b. So when you look at the square root of x squared, you get x. The square root of 9, you get 3. So what does this look like in factored form? You'd have x plus 3, x minus 3. Okay, last but not least, factoring this last one, I think they ended up showing you what they called, from what I've seen, they call it like the butterfly, but I think about this as a trinomial, 3 terms, but a does not equal 1. So I'm going to multiply 8 times negative 3 is negative 24, and it adds to 2. So what 2 numbers multiplied at negative 24 and add to 2? 6 and negative 4. But if you have a hard time finding those, try like, 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8. Like see some different numbers, make the different positive, negatives, see what happens. Okay, I'm actually going to kind of do it the long way, and then I'll show you what they did for the snowflake. So here for the long way, I usually call it called factor by grouping. I'm going to split apart this 2x into a 6x and a minus 4x. That comes from the numbers on the side here, right? And then I'm going to leave the minus 3. So when you combine the middle two terms, you do get 2x. But I call it factor by grouping because if I group these first two and then these next two together, we're going to look at what happens with them. I'm going to rearrange that slightly different. So if we look at these first two, what's the GCF, the greatest common factor of these two? It's a 2x. What's the greatest common factor of these next two? We get like a negative 1 because they actually don't have anything, but I would pull out the negative up front. So when you do like 8x squared plus 6x, I'm going to divide them both by 2x. We get the 2x out front, and then we get x plus 3 here. Here, when we take out the negative 1, divide both of these by negative 1, you get the negative 1 out front, and you get, oops, sorry, I missed a 4 in that first one, because 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4x plus 3, and we're going to take out negative 1, we get another 4x plus 3. So our final answer then is 2x minus 1, the number's in front, and the other one is 4x plus 3. It's like the opposite of distributing. What they did, I think, in the video is they divided them both by the first term, and you simplify the fraction. So this becomes 3/4. You'll notice that becomes then the 4x plus 3. This one you simplify, you get negative 1/2. This is what becomes the 2x minus 1. But there's kind of a little gimmicky there about where you're getting that from. Hope those help you as you prepare.